views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Everyone, I'm the Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS. We got a whole lot in store for you. You are watching Open BXRX, and we're wide open and we've got it going on for you. In fact, coming up on today's show, we'll hit you off just like this. We'll hear from a former state elected official who has deep ties to the civil rights movement and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. After that, we'll highlight a program that is providing great opportunities for college students to contribute to their community while setting them up for a path to career success. And we'll speak to a musician, producer, and former city councilman about his latest project and how family has played an important role in his career. And then Bobby C is here. He steps into the room with the latest in the world of sports, and he has a whole lot. Then finally, we'll shine a light on a program that is offering medical training and mentorship to low-income students. All of that and a whole lot more. We just keep giving it to you like we owe you something. I've got you covered up to Dr. Bob Lee, and we're wide open. Welcome, everybody. How are you? I'm the Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS. You are watching BronxNet. And I tell you, it's a live interactive program that brings the Bronx, New York City straight to your TV set. You can stay connected to us through social media at BronxNet TV. Leading things off, we're joined by a former state senator who represented the 36th district of New York, which includes Bronx neighborhoods of Norwood, Co-op City, Wakefield, Williamsbridge, Bedford Park, Baychester, and the city of Mount Vernon. She joins us to speak about her connection to the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and to highlight the work that she is doing to uplift the Black and Brown communities. So please welcome to the show, former Senator Ruth Hassell-Thompson. Ruth, how are you?
I'm very well, and thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be with you this morning.
Oh, you're welcome. You're always welcome to be here. I always see you out in the community. You know, you got your sleeves rolled up. You're working hard in the Mount Vernon communities, out in the Bronx and in Westchester. Not only that, up in Albany from time to time for the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus.
Right. Right. For the majority of my public life, you know, you'll find me almost anywhere, Bob. And, yeah. You know, in all honesty, there is so much work to do. And today, you know, we're going to talk a little bit in a moment about Dr. King, certainly. But I think that I'm pleased because I feel that he has been such a tremendous influence on my life and on how I see the work that you see me do. I came along at a time when the world was in a different kind of conflict, but social justice has always been a major thread of concern, and it continues to be so today. Yeah,
well, we could jump right into that because you have a deep-rooted history with the civil rights movement. So you can talk a little bit about that and how you got involved in it and what you're doing today to keep that link going.
Dr. King came along in my life at the time when I was running a daycare center, and we were talking about how do we improve the quality of life for parents and for young mothers who needed to go to work, but needed to have safe places for their children, to be sure that their children were getting nutritious foods. And I heard Dr. King say in his transformation speech, you know, it's transformation is not about reforming, it's about transforming how we do what we do. Why we don't need, while we have a temporary need for food shelters and, you know, and for our soup kitchens and whatever, why do we have hunger as one of the richest countries in the world? while it is important to provide temporary shelter for people who have lost their homes or who've been displaced, but why do we have homelessness when we're the wealthiest country in the world? Transformation for him meant that these are temporary measures, but we have almost institutionalized them in such a way that we live with them and expect them to be the thing of the future. There's something inherently wrong with that. And we are not transforming government in the way that he spoke about, but rather, yes, we are and should be concerned about our moral behavior, and certainly reforming how we behave. But as an elected person, and certainly as somebody that he believed should be out there as part of the leadership, while we have those as tacit concerns, the main concerns that we had was, how do we dig deep and get to the root cause of the problems that we have, and be able to share in a way that disallows there to be such an imbalance between the rich and the poor. And as we have noticed, that gap has broadened, exponentially, to the point that we're back into another world of turmoil today. We talk about health disparities, and while we always knew that, this COVID epidemic and pandemic has caused us to really have to look closely at who's been served and why are certain people more susceptible to disease and conditions, because historically they have not been receiving health care. And so therefore their underlying conditions have never been addressed. Therefore, anything that comes along makes them more susceptible than others. I mean, this was a part of his message. That's not a deviation from the things that he talked about.
Yeah, and then you went on to become senator. And what are some of the things that you took from that to give to us in our community, the work of Dr. Martin Luther King? And what is your proudest achievement from your time as a senator?
Well, that's a tall order, because I'm proud of a lot of things that I accomplished, Bob. One of the things I'm proudest of is that I was able to take a staff of people who did not know each other and turn them into a powerful team of people who were focused totally on the community that we were gifted to serve. I was able to take their brain power and create language for what became the Minority Business Development Bill that is now state law, which requires that all state contracts, both public-private partnerships, have to include minorities and women in participation in projects in the state of New York. I took that brain power and changed the court system. We raised the age of children going into the general population within prison. I mean, we set the stage for indigent defense to make sure that there was money to ensure that people who did not have lawyers not only had attorneys, but also that the caseload of pro bono attorneys was not so heavy that they could not handle cases. You know, attorneys shouldn't be walking in, meeting their client and reading their file as they're walking into court and asking them to plea out without really understanding all the evidence of the case. We wrote the language for discovery, which requires that defense attorneys receive information in a timely fashion to ensure that justice happens for their client. Perpetrators have a right to justice as well, and not everybody sees it that way. And when I had those kinds of conversations, people would say to me, "Oh, you're soft on crime." No, I'm smart on crime, because I want to see justice done. And when justice is done, the people who go to prison deserve to be there. These are some of the things that I'm most proud of. Certainly, as the first chair of the Domestic Violence Task Force, creating domestic violence laws that protect women and men, children, families from being abused, not only by spouses, but by family members, changing the family courts to ensure that children are protected when parents get divorced. I wrote the no fault divorce law, so what am I proud of? I'm proud of the work that I did with the 23 public housing developments in my community. I trained the presidents of those buildings and complexes to become not managers, because that's NYCHA's job, but to become leaders of people in their communities. And if you go to Baychester Housing and look at the beauty of what has just developed and talk to Sandra, who is the president there, who was one of my students who was recalcitrant and resistant, but she is my greatest accomplishment because she sat at the table with the developers and she brought the residents and said to them, we are going to make sure that the things that Ruth Hassell-Thompson talked about when she talked to us about where we live, we're going to change. We're going to transform the way we see how we live. And we're not going to allow people to treat us like second-class citizens because we live in public housing. So Bob, I could go on and on and on, but those are some of the things that I just feel so proud to know that we did life-changing, transformational things that change the lives of families and neighbors and communities.
Well, we love all the work that you've been doing in our community. And just one last thing, how are you continuing to support the next generation of women in politics?
Well, there's a longtime friend of mine, Sharon Nelson, who has a organization called Crew TV, and she started this institute for training women for civic engagement. And
yes.
Yeah, and so she created this think tank, and she's named it after me. And so if I have any, if I could do a little horn blowing, the Ruth Hassell Institute for Civic Engagement is one of the things that we're doing now to ensure that women going into politics, or whether they want to be politically elected, or whether they want to be campaign managers, or whether they just want to be more civically engaged and understand, the workings of their community, who's who, and how to get things done. This institute has been put into place. And certainly I continue to mentor. I have about 23 young women and men that I continue to mentor on a regular basis.
They want me to run. I think I should come and talk to you.
Anytime. we can share a lot.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Where can we go to find out more about all the work that you're doing? You have a website, social media? I
don't. Because I still work, as you may know, I still am policy advisor to the governor's office. Yes. And so that I still work for state government, and therefore I don't have a personal web page per se, but I have an email that people can write to me, Yeah.
I know your granddaughter's going to set up a social media page for you.
Is she? She will. She's been wanting me to do that for a long time. Yeah. I'm thinking of my retirement date soon from public office, but never from public service. Yes.
Well, I just want to give your granddaughter, a shout out, because you mentioned her offline there for a second.
Yes.
She does this work for you. But thank you so much for joining us, and you're always welcome to come back.
Dr. Bob, thank you. Thank you for having me, Stephen, and the crew there at BronxNet. It's good to be back visible and to let the population out there know that they're not forgotten by me.
There you go. Ruth Hassell-Thompson, thank you so much. We'll take a break. More Open coming up next.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at bronxnet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
All right, here we go. I'm Dr. Bob Lee. Our next guest is the Provost of Lehman College and Vice President of Academic Affairs and Student Success. He sits down with us today to speak about the Bronx Recovery Corps and the services offered to students and how it benefits the community at large. So we want to please welcome to the show Dr. Peter Nwosu.
Thank you.
Doctor, welcome.
Thank you very much again. It's a delight to be with you.
I heard that bell ring. That means it's on. It's time. Doctor, what are some of the goals of the college and its students for 2022?
Thank you very much for that question. As you know, we are planning as best as possible to return our students in person to campus at the end of this month as spring semester begins. And so that work began last semester. Registration and enrollment, those processes are continuing. At the same time as we have the winter semester going on. And so the goal is for our students to be physically present. 70% of our courses are planned to be in person. And then, of course, mindful of the challenges we have with COVID, we anticipate that we will take off as we plan.
What were some of the things that we did during the pandemic? Of course, it still continues to this date. Some of the things that we've done in the past, of course, we had to shut it down and do the work from home. Are we still doing some of that today, doing the hybrid work and some?
You know, we've learned so much again because of where we are today. We would have known that in the last 2 years we have had to deal with a serious virus. Yeah. But I think over the course of the months, with the vaccination, with the booster, with the testing protocols we have in place, we've been able to navigate this process and believe very strongly with the arrangements and the planning that we have been making, that we would be in a position to return to campus safely as we are planning. That is the goal of the chancellor. That's the goal of my president. And that's the goal of our system-wide office. And our faculty and staff are working as hard as possible to ensure that we put all of the safety protocols in place that we have had all this while as we begin to really anticipate that return to campus.
Yeah. Doctor, can you describe the work that the Bronx Recovery Corps is doing in our community?
It's interesting that you had asked the question about COVID. This is actually how the program emerged. And when we began discussions in 2020 to launch this program, it was really designed to address the challenges of COVID and the recovery part of it. But it's also consistent with the strategic plan of the college, actually, that we put in place to ensure that experiential learning is a signature component of a Lehman education. And so the Bronx Recovery Corps sits at the core of that work. We launched it in 2021, January, in collaboration with a nonprofit organization Here to Here, which supports collaboration and partnership building among students, educators, and businesses. And so it's taken off, allows students to earn credit and gain work experience while contributing to the borough's economic recovery from COVID-19 as well. What we actually do with this program is to pair students with local businesses and community organizations. And what is important in this pairing is that the students are paid. These are paid part-time positions for these organizations. Students typically will earn $17 an hour and work on an average of 10 hours per week in the program. And then they also enrolled in a career readiness course for which they will receive academic credit. So they're getting experience, they're contributing to the work of that local business, but also they're earning credit for the course. And then they also attend workshops on career development and community engagement, because ultimately, as you know, many of our students, when they graduate, they work in our community, they work in New York. And so this is one of the really important contributions that the college continues to make to really enhance our community and accelerate our recovery as we deal with the COVID crisis. But we anticipate this will actually continue beyond COVID itself.
I like it. It gives them the academic and the practical experience in our community that's very well much needed. You know, you can get the academic knowledge in college and in the universities, but it also you can't beat it when you get out there and get that practical experience.
That is why it is so important for us that we, at the core of this is that preparation that we're giving students, but also very grateful to the employers who are actually opening their doors and allowing our students to have that experience as well.
So you expect students to learn what?
To learn how to work, to learn how to engage and work with those local businesses in areas where there are gaps, to help them fill those gaps with the skill set that they already have learned from the college, whether it's to help them build a website, whether it's to help them in other areas where there's a need, answering phone, customer service, whatever it is that our students can help. And they're not paying for those because the funding for this we've secured from a number of organizations. Hopefully I'll be able to speak to those as well. And so this is really providing free service, to our community organizations as well. But they're opening their doors because of this important relationship that the college has with them.
I like that. And this is an opportunity. Is this an opportunity that is limited to students attending Lehman College, or can others?
That is correct. It's for our students at Lehman that this opportunity is open to. Thus far,
if you want to get involved, you have to enroll in Lehman College.
Yes. I was going to say that we encourage others who may be interested to enroll at Lehman College to have that opportunity and experience.
That's wonderful. Great program. I like it. You know, you guys are doing some great work at the Lehman College. We hear about a lot of the things that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
And a lot of these youngsters are, they have their parents. What do you want parents to know about helping their youngsters with their education?
You've asked a very important question. It is really, and sometimes it doesn't really cost much to ask how is school going, how are things going. Have you done your assignment? How is that happening? Because you would probably know that the COVID challenges presented equally additional challenges to our students. It's hard enough to come to the campus, but it's also harder even to have to do that from home on a screen like you and I engaged in.
Yeah.
And then you don't really have the opportunity as a student to engage with other students, which is what college life is about. Meet your professor face to face. And then at the end of the class, you ask a fellow student, did you understand what he was explaining or she was explaining in class? And then you all sit together and talk through those. Yeah. Those are things that are missing for us. And suddenly you ask a question about parents, to be able to encourage them to reach out, ask them how school is going, reach out to the other classmates. How many friends have they been able to engage with, talk to, help them reach out to their professors. Whilst this sounds simple, those are important in terms of building that community that allows them to be successful in the work that they do at the college. And that's why we're really working hard to bring folks back at the end of the month in a way that allows us to begin to rebuild that community that is really what college is all about.
Yeah. Where can we go to see more of your work?
There, you mean on our website, actually, there's a lot, on our website, there's a lot going on there. The office that manages the Bronx Recovery Corps is the Office of International Programs and Community Engagement. And they work very closely with student affairs and career services, just in case other students are wondering, how do I get to them? That's where they can actually reach out to to get support. I do want to just very quickly, though,
Sure.
extend appreciation to the organization Here to Hear that has worked with us in putting together this initiative, to thank a number of our donors that have actually done great work. Without them, this would not have been possible. Our central office, the Deutsche Bank Americas Foundation, has been a critical partner. Petrie Foundation is also another important partner. And Congressman Espaillat's office has also been another partner that has actually provided us with some funding to advance this important initiative.
Well, Doctor, thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much for the opportunity, Dr. Lee. Thank you.
We appreciate you. Dr. Peter Nwosu, Lehman College Provost. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you're always welcome back.
Thank you very much. I look forward to the opportunity again.
You got it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break. More open on the way. Coming up next. Welcome back. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS. And yes, you're watching Open. Our next guest is a Grammy-nominated musician, producer, author, educator, and former city councilman of Durham, North Carolina. Yeah, I roll through there all the time. Maybe you can give me one of those little passes to get through. We'll talk about that later on. He's here to speak about his Black to the Future album, his upcoming children's book, and reflect on how his family's legacy and politics has impacted his career in both fields. So please welcome to the show, Pierce Freelon. Pierce, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Lee.
Before we begin, talk a little bit about your family legacy.
Yes. Well, a couple days ago, Sidney Poitier passed away, and I watched an interview with him where he was talking about how he was standing on the shoulders of giants. And that was something my grandmother has been telling me since I was a young kid. You are standing on the shoulders of giants. And, Sidney Poitier is one of those giants that I think of as like a OG who just paved the way, trailblazer, a lot of firsts. And for him to hear him say like, nah, it's Paul Robeson for me. It's Hattie McDaniel for me. We really, as a people, are building on a foundation and a legacy of excellence that goes back decades and centuries. So in my story, in my family, I've got some wonderful role models. My great-grandfather, this was my dad's grandfather, Alan Freelon, was a Harlem Renaissance painter and an educator who ran for to be a state representative in Pennsylvania in 1949. His grandson, my dad, was an architect. He passed away about 2 years ago. Was an architect and photographer and mentor and educator, Phil Freelon. My mother is a jazz vocalist, and her mom was a organizer and a business owner, a hairdresser. So, just surrounded by people who worked hard. My grandmother always said, mediocrity is not an option. Excellence is the standard. The type of thing like a 12-year-old doesn't want to hear, but you come to appreciate with age and with wisdom, like, okay, what you really meant was, go hard, go in, like put everything out, leave it all on the field, like work hard and find something that you really care about and do it every day, like there's no tomorrow. And I appreciate that those values were instilled in me by my ancestors, for sure.
Yeah. And you spoke about people whose shoulders we stood on. And I put this book together, and there's a lot of people in here whose shoulders we stood on. Mm-hmm. I got to look in here and see if I put your great-grandfather in here. But there's a lot of them, though. There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. We have so much to be proud of.
Yes. And you got into, speaking of students and children, you got into writing children's books, right? You have one. What inspired your decisions to create a children's album?
Well, children's music is an important space for my voice. So I'm a father. I've got a son and a daughter, and as a parent, you know, there's an interesting shift that happens. So, you know, before kids, when me and my wife are on a date night, or I'm going to hang out with my friends to play basketball or whatever, there's a certain soundtrack that I listen to in the car. Now all of a
Which
sudden,
one is that?
well, it's a lot of stuff these days. You know, it's everyone from Earth, Wind and Fire, Rick James
Uh-oh.
to Tupac and J. Cole. You know, Lauryn Hill. I have a wide variety of tastes, but you know, when I get in the car with those baby seats in the back, I gotta be a little more intentional about what I play. You know, and so thinking about children's music, you know, there are some artists out there that make music for kids, and a lot of that music didn't really speak to me culturally. It didn't speak to my tastes, and as far as somebody who came up in hip hop and listens to soul and funk and jazz. I didn't hear a lot of music for children that was geared towards those aesthetics. So, you know, I decided to be the change that I wanted to see, and create the sound that I wanted to hear for my kids.
That's how you do that. That's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been a wonderful journey, you know, thinking about fatherhood and exploring that musically, and you know, and making music with my children. My daughter Stella is all over this Grammy nominated album, Black to the Future. And in between songs, I talk to kids, my children, my nieces and nephews, and I found a bunch of old VHS tapes of me when I was a kid with my siblings and my parents. So the album is full of children's voices, you know, just talking about, you know, life from a kid's perspective. So it's pretty cool.
Yes, yes. So how important has African American culture and identity to ancestry been throughout your career, your musical career?
It's important. A friend of mine, a sister named Omi Sade, Bernie Scott, she's a really amazing podcaster. She told me once that she says, you have ancestors in your bloodline. Those are people you're related to, you know, the people who make up your DNA. Then there's ancestors in your cultural through line. So these might be people who you're not blood related to, but whose work inspires, you know, the work that you do and the role that you play in this life. And we've already named a few of mine, but, you know, to throw a few more on there, people like Dr. Maya Angelou is what I consider an ancestor of my cultural through line. What she did as, not just as a poet, but her activism in the community was an inspiration for me as an artist who was also involved as a public servant. But for me, it's the artivists, those artists, activists, the Nina Simones, the Billie Holidays, the Ernie Barneses, the Polly Murrays that do it for me. The James Baldwins, you know, just an artist, organizer, activist. Those are the folks that really have paved the way for me and shown me a blueprint that you don't have to just be, you know, you don't have to just be one thing. You can be an artist, you can be a creative, and you can be, you know, public servant. You can get involved in politics, involved in your community. Those two things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. Hey, how special was it for you to be able to produce a song featuring your daughter? That must have been a wonderful feeling, you know, somebody in your family, your little one right there with you every step of the way of the process.
It's great. I mean, this is the mic actually, because most of it was recorded. It was recorded here during COVID at the crib, like, you know. So think back, this time, 18 months ago, when I was recording Black to the Future, we were in the middle of a COVID pandemic. The kids were home from school. So I'm sitting in here in my office working on music. You know, my kids are like, I'm hungry, you know, like you know what I mean? Like, help me with my math homework. And I'm like, well, why don't you come over here? Let me teach you a little something. So I think, you know, one of the hidden blessings of the pandemic was it really brought our family, my nuclear family, really close together, you know, by necessity. Just being, we were parent slash teacher slash babysitter slash, therapist, all the things.
That's right.
And we couldn't get away from each other. So one way to transform that closeness into something productive was just to open up the studio to the
Yeah.
kids. And Stella, in particular, my daughter, she really loved it in there. She never wanted to leave, and she loved speaking into a microphone and then hearing her voice back over
Yeah.
speakers with music. It was like, I created that, so it was great.
Yeah, I mean, it's so nice to pull over a microphone and say, "Hey, let's get busy." Let's
Right,
work.
right,
At
right.
first, they were like their voices, but he's, "Hey, play that back. Let me do it again. Let me do it again."
Yeah,
She hung out with you, right? She said, "This is what Daddy's doing. I want to do
right,
that too."
right. And I had a similar experience. My mother is a jazz vocalist, and while I didn't spend a lot of time with her in recording studios because she often would go to New York or LA to record.
Yeah.
I was doing homework, backstage at sound checks. I was
So it
able
came
to,
full circle.
right,
Your mother did it for you, and you did it for your daughter.
exactly. Yeah, the environment that I grew up in became, the course that I pursued as an adult. And we'll see with Stella if she pursues music. I'm not sure
Yeah,
if it's something that she'll take into adulthood, but it's certainly been a wonderful, parent, father-daughter bonding thing for us
yeah,
now.
that's a beautiful thing. Pierce, do you have any words of wisdom for people who are looking to get into this business of ours?
Yeah, I think that we are in an interesting time for media makers. You can, buy a microphone for relatively cheap and start a podcast from your bedroom. You
Yeah,
know, you can produce music. It used to be back in the 80s that, you need to book a couple hours of studio time, but now with laptops, you have every instrument you could possibly imagine could
yeah,
be, could show up on a laptop, and you can play the notes, one at a time through MIDI technology. So
yeah.
I think the time is now for creators to speak their truth.
Beautiful, man. Hey, listen, they're gonna give me a hard rap. I want to talk to you, forever because you're very interesting. You got a lot of great information that people want to know about. But where can we go to get more information on you?
Yeah, you can just go to my website, piercefreelon.com. It's Pierce like Pierce your ear, FREELON.com. That's where you'll find all my stuff.
There you go. Pierce Freelon, former Durham city councilman. I can't believe that, but that's a beautiful thing. And musician and producer. Thank you. Got that album, Black to the Future. Make sure you check it out. It's on
Thank
that
you.
website you spoke about. Pierce,
Yep.
thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. You're into sports?
I sure am.
All right. Coming up next, we have Bobby C. He has the latest in the world of sports next.
Good morning, sports fans. We have a really special treat for you this morning as we get a chance to talk some college basketball here in the Bronx with WFUV's own Thomas Aiello. Thomas, how's it going?
What's going on, Bobby? Thank you so much for having me here on BronxNet TV.
It's so great to see you, man. I mean, I definitely take a lot of pride in the fact that you're coming up strong in the business, really excited for your future. I think it's great that you're doing big things with the Rams, and I think it's an exciting time here in the Bronx because Fordham basketball, particularly on both sides, I mean, I know the fans here in the BX have seen so many great things from the women's program, but we finally have a men's team here in the BX that's doing big things too. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with Fordham men's basketball.
Well, I do think that Fordham's athletic director, Ed Call, really summed up the men's team best, calling it a startup company. That's really what it's become, this rebuilding project of bringing the Fordham men's basketball team back to life. And Bobby, you and I know, we talk about it all the time, how much of a storied tradition it is at Rose Hill. The likes of David Maxwell, Charlie Yelverton way back in the 70s and 80s to the 90s with those Patriot League teams. And some of the 2000s teams were pretty good. But ever since the calendar has turned into that 2010s decade, it's been a little bit of a rough patch. But now we're seeing Kyle Neptune come over from Villanova, and he's just reinvigorated the program with tremendous energy, and there's a lot of excitement. He brought in over 10 new players coming in from the transfer portal. Now, he took advantage, of course, with the NCAA changing their rules, having those players in those portals get instant eligibility. And that has been a really big thing for them, for the Rams. And two of those players I want to highlight, Antrell Charlton and Darius Quisenberry, two of the stalwarts in the Fordham starting lineup, have really been key to this team's 9-5 record so far here. And they've just put on a show in the Atlantic 10. I mean, Fordham for quite a while has been thought of as the cakewalk team, and now they're a really competitive team. They're hungry on the defensive side, and everything's going right so far here in year number 1 of this rebuild.
I think right now, when you look at this Rams roster, there's going to be some adjustments because the big news, and maybe you could tell us a little bit more about it, is the loss of one of their key players.
Yeah, so Antonio Day Jr., following his buzzer beater against Duquesne at the Rose Hill Gym and in front of no fans, so it wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be. Obviously, if the fans were there, it would be much more of a livelier scene. But nonetheless, the Rams win that game. And then the next day, we get an announcement. I first saw it from John Rothstein's Twitter when he said Antonio Day Jr. will be leaving the school due to personal reasons. There's been no information beyond that. So it's really a situation, and as media members, Bobby, you and I can agree, it's definitely not something you want to go snooping around or speculating on. And I don't know too much about what's going on, but you hope that really whatever it is, he gets help or everything you hope is okay. But from a pure basketball standpoint, that is a humongous loss for them, because that was potentially a second or maybe even a first team All-Atlantic 10 player, averaging near 17 points per game. He had lightning speed going north to south. He was a fantastic ball handler. And I don't think I ever saw him frowning. Every time I've seen him around, I don't know if he was ever down or just sad. He was always smiling at something, even if it just wasn't something that had happened. He always looked like he was playing with such joy. But now you lose that player, and now that puts Kyle Neptune in a really sticky spot, because it's not like the NBA where you can go out and make trades, you can give up draft picks and get players to replace that. He's got to wait a couple of months, quite a few months, in fact, until next fall when some of his recruits come in maybe to fill that void. But for now, it's going to be a rough patch for this men's team, but a lot of good things came out of that St. Louis game and their last game in the Atlantic 10.
Now, I guess the hope is at Fordham, at Rose Hill, that the next man up type of mentality. We've seen it many times, especially in college basketball, where maybe one of the younger players gets an opportunity to shine. And I think that's just the position they're in right now.
It certainly is. And look, I think Coach Neptune, he's got a lot of interesting pieces on that team. I think some of those players include Cameron Cunningham, a 6'7" athletic wing who really is going to have to be more aggressive on the offensive side. Ahmad Harrison, the freshman from Maryland, who there is no fear in that young man on the defensive end. The question becomes, how are the Rams going to hold up on offense? Again, losing a 17-point per game scorer like Antonio Day is detrimental to the success of this team. Now, you would hope, if you're a fan, that they get around the 12-win mark and just kind of hold on from there. But there was a lot of good, Bobby, like you said, that came out of that St. Louis game. They forced 20 turnovers out of the Billikens, only had 10 as a Fordham team, which is really good. Shows they're taking care of the basketball. But the one thing they're really missing, and it's a disparity here in the shooting, is the scoring. And again, I'll repeat it one more time. Antonio Day, 17 points per game. Rams essentially shoot 29% from the field for the entire game. And that's a humongous loss, and they have to find a way to fix that.
I was wondering if you had an opportunity to see some of the other local teams. Iona College, of course, is undefeated in the MAC conference. Manhattan men's basketball, they beat them the other night. Big rivalry there, just like it is with Fordham. And Manhattan men's team 2-2 in the conference. Any thoughts on some of the other local teams that are playing well or not playing well?
Well, I want to say about Iona is that Rick Pitino is just really a really good coach, a great basketball mind. And you can talk a lot about what's happened off the court when he was at Louisville or any of these places, but you can't ever underestimate his X's and O's abilities. The fact he's able to get the Iona Gales to the NCAA tournament last season And now this year, they're even better than they were last year. I think that's a real testament to the coach that he is. And Manhattan, I will also say this. In the Battle of the Bronx, when they play Fordham, the Fordham Rams always march into that game that, oh, we're the A-10 team. We're the superior team. And Manhattan always likes to come out and punch the Rams in the mouth. And they're really good games every single year. I mean, I can't say anything bad about watching and growing up with that rivalry and just seeing the competitiveness between the two teams. And it's really city pride. It's a lot of fun to go and watch. But I guess one of the other local teams that I'm really high on, if we can maybe step out to New Jersey, is Seton Hall. That's a team I've really been paying attention to. I like Kevin Willard and his system oriented around defense. He makes a lot of adjustments in game, which is really good. They've got a really versatile star in Jared Rhoden, who's probably going to be all Big East this year. And St. John's too. I think there's something there going with Mike Anderson, former Fordham Ram. Joel Soriano's on the team, so that gives them a boost in the paint. But Julian Champagny, who is playing like an absolute All-American right now, over 20 points per game, on pretty good efficiency for a guy that likes to shoot a lot. And he's got a minion in Posh Alexander. So a lot of New York, New Jersey basketball has come back to life, and it's really exciting, Bobby.
And pretty crazy to think at this point of the season that we both be talking about the Johnnies 9-5, Fordham 9-5 at the same time, kind of like a rebirth of college basketball here in this area.
It really is like a rebirth, Bobby. And I don't remember, but I hear stories all the time about the 80s rivalries between Fordham and St. John's, Seton Hall, and all of these local powerhouses. We have to remember at one point, Fordham was in that conversation as a national powerhouse in the early 70s when they had, I believe it was 2 or 3 All-Americans. Charlie Yelverton, Ken Charles were the two. And they went 26-7 that year. They finished in the top 10 in the rankings. They went as far as the Sweet 16, I believe it was, in the March Madness tournament. And they were really a legitimate team at one point. Now, they started to get into more leagues, and then the competition, other things happened, but they were still a very good local program, a respected local program. And you look forward to the future, I guess, of New York basketball. The big thing is how many players just come out of this city that want to play for these local teams.
Well, Thomas, before we let you go, doing a great job, like I said, on the 90.7 FM broadcast, both on the women and on the men's side. Just for you personally, tell us a little bit about your career. You're a junior at Fordham. Hard to believe. You sound great. Tell us a little bit how things are going for you.
It's been a lot of fun. You and I obviously talk, I think, all the time. I text you every other day about God knows what. It can be any random Fordham basketball fact that I just find in the archives, but it's been cool. FUV is an awesome experience, and it's definitely something I want to continue with as I go into the future. And I really also enjoy writing. That's really an aspect of, I guess, my toolbox that I love to do. I'm the assistant sports editor now at the Fordham Ram, the school newspaper. So I get to read all of the submissions that come in, edit them, make them better. And something really cool to be in a position like that, being a leader, to sort of guide people to do better and wanting them to do better and helping them get better. I think that's really what has struck me, especially now as a junior, and you're in a little bit of an older role. You're an older player, I guess, if you will, on the team. So you have to get these younger kids ready to go. Like, hey, this is how this is done, or I like to do this. Why don't you try it this way? I think that's really been the big takeaway for me. As much as I love doing it, for me, it's interacting with people and helping them get better has been my number one, I guess, not observation, more of just like a thing that I can experience.
Well, Thomas, you got a bright future ahead of you, and so does college basketball here in these parts. A great time of year to be a fan. Appreciate you taking some time to chat with me this morning.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. No problem. Go Rams.
See you soon. Go Rams.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WPLS. This is Open. We've got you covered like a blanket. Our next guests are the Director of Diversity of the Associated Medical Schools of New York and a trained medical student, and the President of Mentoring in Medicine. They join us today to share important information about the Mentoring in Medicine program and the services they offer low-income students seeking career paths in healthcare and science. So please welcome to the show, Danya Contreras, Dr. Lynne Holden, and Dr. Bateil Badal. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Good, good. So Dr. Lynne Holden, I haven't seen you in such a long time. It's always a pleasure to see you and work with you. We've done some great work in the community and looking forward to continuing that work. Tell us about what's going on with the new works that you're doing now.
Wow, well, it's great to see you and thank you for having me back. It's an honor to be here. And yes, I do look forward to continuing our amazing community outreach. So Mentoring in Medicine is a nonprofit. It was started in 2007.
Yeah.
And the goal is really to help students to become health and science professionals, beginning in pre-K. So we're a firm believer that students, especially in our communities, really need to have certain foundations, certain introductions, certain experiences that allow them to not only develop a love of science and health, but also to become what often they dream about, a health professional or a scientist.
Yeah, and you have some friends with you. Who are
I
they?
do have friends with me. I absolutely do. I have Bateil. Bateil works with the Associated Medical Schools of New York, and we've partnered with them to help the students on our older students, or should I say, our students who are in college and post-bac and medical school. And I have Danya. And Danya actually went through the program, not only the Mentoring in Medicine program, but also the program with the Associated Medical Schools of New York. And she's in medical school now.
All right, Danya, how was that process for you?
It's going great. I'm a first-year medical student here at SUNY Upstate, and thanks to MIM and AMSNY, I'm actually succeeding very well here. So
yeah,
I'm very grateful.
Did you have any bumps and bruises along the way?
Yeah, it's been a long ride. I graduated in 2013 and I'm just here now. So you already know it's been a long ride, but I'm really grateful for MIM because they guided me and gave me this opportunity to actually get in and gave me the support that I needed. And AMSNY gave me that backdrop and the resources and knowledge I need to succeed now as a first-year medical student.
Oh, that's fantastic. Dr. Badal, how did you get involved?
So I'm here with the Associated Medical Schools of New York, the Director of Diversity, 4.5 years with this organization. I'm doing something I love and very passionate about. So the programs that our diversity programs, actually, AMSNY has been supporting since 1985.
Wow.
A long time, and dedicated to really diversifying the physician workforce in the state. The program that Danya was involved in actually is a post-baccalaureate program. So we currently have 4 diversity in medicine post-bac programs that are for students who have finished their undergraduate degrees and are ready for medical school. They apply, but then the medical schools refer these students to the post-bac programs for 1 year intense academic coursework, advising, mentorship, study skills, learning skills, all of that. And Dr. Lee, these programs are so successful, I should say the students are 94% success rate. These students complete the programs, enter a New York State medical school, as Ms. Contreras here is a perfect example. And so that's a little bit about our diversity in medicine programs.
Yeah. And I know if you look at Dr. Holden, you got some great things happening. I know that for sure. She's been like on it, relentless. And Doctor, how did you get involved with the program that you started years ago?
Well, it's really a need. That need was that only 6% of physicians in the workforce were African American, should I say are, and 7% Latino, and far less Native American. So we really needed to diversify the workforce, the healthcare workforce, in order, as we can see with COVID, really help to reach those patients that oftentimes are neglected or have suboptimal care. So we really wanted to, through Mentoring in Medicine, broaden the competitiveness of students who have a dream, but they may not know how to reach that dream. And that's what we do with Mentoring in Medicine. Again, we start young because there's certain aspects that students have to learn. They have to learn critical thinking. They have to learn how to read and comprehend reading. They have to know learn a different language, and you can't do that overnight. So starting young, continuing through the pathway, taking advantage of opportunities to learn. Saturdays, summers, we have programs that are designed, fun, interactive programs that students can join in person or virtually, that they don't even know. I mean, they spend more time with us than they spend on schoolwork because they're meeting like-minded friends, and they're actually contributing. We tell them you're saving a life. So your TikTok video, your posting on social media, it saves lives. And students certainly want to do that even in elementary school. And so it's important to cultivate that so that they can become the next Danya and get into medical school.
Danya, are you ready? What are you looking forward to getting involved in? How do you
Everything. No, like Dr. Holden said, you know, I grew up in the Bronx and I've never had a Latino doctor. So that's one of the things I want to work on after I'm done here, and building that trust that we need in the Latino community so that we can have a lot of preventative medicine and hopefully help our community have healthier lives and, you know, live longer.
That's fantastic. How can more people get involved? What can we do? Where can we go?
Well, you can certainly, for mentoring in medicine, visit our website, which is www.medicalmentor.org, www.medicalmentor.org. Again, we're having programs that run the spectrum of students. Right now, we're actually pushing students to apply to summer programs because summer is a big time of learning loss. And we certainly don't want students, especially who are in the path that Danya is in, we don't want them to have any learning loss. So summer camps are very big for us. Yes, very big, very. So we want to make sure that students have fun during the summer, of course, but also that they're learning. And that's what's important, to continue to have fun and to learn in an engaging way.
And Dr. Badal?
As Dr. Holden mentioned, I mean, really to effectively address the attrition of students in this pipeline to medicine, it's critical that the state invest in programs like ours and like in mentoring in medicine that really focus on identifying these transition points at which young people sometimes, you know, abandon these plans, and to support these students.
And what is your website to go to? Dr. Badal?
I'm sorry?
Is your website where people can go to?
The website is www.amsny.org.
There you go. Danya Contreras, Dr. Lynne Holden, and Dr. Bateil Badal. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Dr. Lee.
And you're welcome to come back again. We love you guys.
Oh, thank you.
That's about it for today's show. Thank you. We can't thank you enough. Thank you for letting us share in this space and time with you. And always remember this: what you are is God's gift to you, and what you make of yourself is your gift to God. So choose your choice. Let your choice control the chooser. For all of us here at BronxNet, have a great and enjoyable day. And I'll see you over 107.5 WBLS. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee. Catch you another day, another way. Love you all.